Hello friends, and welcome back to Partners in Fire. Today we're going to talk about a very important subject, one that people, especially women, often struggle with. Today we're going to talk about self-advocacy. We're going to talk about what self-advocacy is, why it's so important, why it's so freaking hard to do sometimes, and we're also going to give you tips on how to advocate for yourself. One of the things that held me back for so freaking long was trying to do things that other people wanted me to do. I was living my life the way society expected me to. I would just roll over and do whatever I was expected to do because that's what I was supposed to do. That's what I thought I had to do. I didn't know that I could advocate for myself, have my own dreams and goals and ideas, and do what I needed to do to achieve them. I didn't know that I could decide for myself what I was supposed to do. And I didn't know that I could just remove myself from situations that didn't align with my goals. I didn't know how to advocate for myself. I struggled, and that's why it took me so long to get on the path to financial independence. And what I want to do today is help other people get past that. I want to help other people learn how to advocate for themselves, not only how to, but that they can, that it's important, and show them that some of the reasons that they're not are grounded in cultural issues that prevent women from getting ahead. What I didn't know about self-advocacy held me back for far too long, and I want to prevent others from making those same mistakes. So what is self-advocacy? Have you ever gone to the doctor and had all of the doctors and nurses insist that this thing was wrong with you, and you're like thinking in your head, I know that's not the problem. I know that's not the problem. There has to be something else. There has to be. But the doctors are telling you what's wrong, and they're doctors, so they're supposed to know, right? And so instead of asking them questions and speaking up for yourself and saying, no, I don't think that's right. I think you should test this instead. We sit back meekly, quietly, and we accept the results. We accept what the doctor tells us, and sometimes it's not correct. I remember when I was struggling with indigestion. God, it was awful. It got to the point where I could only eat toast, and that was it. I would wake up in the middle of the night in agonizing pain, and the only thing I could do to get a little smidgen of relief was induce vomiting, make myself throw up. That's the only thing that would just make some of the stomach pain go away. There was pain throughout my chest, throughout my stomach. It was like entire body aches. And I went to the doctor. I went to doctor after doctor after doctor. I got referred to a gastrointestinal specialist. They're like, well, it doesn't seem to be like anything's wrong. I got referred to get an endoscopy where they didn't find anything. I went to the ER over and over and over again when this happened. And they were like, well, it's just GERD. There's nothing wrong. And they gave me fancy pills. They told me to get on Prilosec and told me to have Tums and said that if I just controlled my diet, things would be better. And it was my own fault because I ate fatty foods or what have you. And it still happened though. Like I said, it got to the point where I could only eat toast. I was like, there's something seriously wrong with me. And honestly, I knew what it was. I knew and felt in my body that it was my gallbladder, that was what was causing problems. One time when I went to the ER, I even had them test it, and they said, no, your levels are fine. It's fine. You don't have to worry about anything. The next time I went to the ER, I was in such pain that I was laying on the floor crying. And that's the first time the doctors took me seriously. That's the first time where they decided to actually check my levels. And do you know what happened? I was called into an emergency surgery, and I had my gallbladder removed. Yup. And guess what? Since then, I've had no problems. I don't wake up in the middle of the night with indigestion anymore. I don't throw up my foods anymore. I mean, yeah, I still get a little bit of, heartburn when I eat Indian food, but who doesn't, right? All the rest of the problems solved. And the reason is because I advocated for myself, and I continue to tell them that it's my gallbladder. And you know what? If I would have fought harder, or if they would have believed me first, maybe I wouldn't have had to struggle so much. Maybe I wouldn't have had to go to so many doctor's appointments to get my gallbladder taken out. Maybe I wouldn't have had to have emergency surgery. Maybe I could have had it scheduled or something like that instead. It's not just doctors who don't listen. Self-advocacy is incredibly important in all aspects of our life. That includes negotiating for a job. That includes career counseling. That even includes personal relationships. We, especially women, struggle with self-advocacy in every aspect of our lives. We sit passively and let career counselors decide our lives for us. And we sometimes go so far as to take their advice and follow it, even though we don't truly believe it. We also are content or feel that we have to let our partners make every decision when it comes to our relationships and our interpersonal lives. It's so bad that we get to the point where we allow our partners to just stomp all over our boundaries because we don't want to make waves. We don't want to change things up. We don't want to advocate for ourselves to get the relationship that works for us. And the question is, why? Why do we do this? Why do women especially struggle with asking for what we want and trying to get what we want? Why is it so hard for us to advocate for ourselves? Honestly, I think a big reason why it's so hard is that we're taught not to do it. That's right. Women are taught that we should not speak up for ourselves. We are taught to be passive observers, to let life happen to us, to listen to authority, to go with the flow. Men who advocate for themselves are seen as confident and assertive, whereas women, they're bossy, they're arrogant. But why the double standard? And it starts early. It starts from the very beginning. We are socialized to let things go, to compromise, to be passive and be perfect and be understanding and caring and giving. We are not taught to speak up for ourselves. Society taught us that speaking up is wrong, that it's a male trait, that that's not how a good woman behaves. And let's take a minute to discuss what it means to be a good woman. I did a Google search, and I'm not gonna lie, the results are horrifying. Never, ever, ever Google search how to be a good woman because, well, unless you want to find completely sexist driven or dive deep into why women are socialized not to self-advocate for ourselves. Okay, I will tell you, never, ever do a Google search of how to be a good woman unless you want to nosedive into a plethora of misogyny and sexism. Or if you want to do some research on why women don't advocate for themselves, because it starts here. It starts on the societal ideas of what a good woman is. And you know what? It's not pretty. If you Google that, the featured snippet will give you horrifying advice on how to be a woman. The top result talks about concealing unwanted emotions. What are unwanted emotions? I don't know. And about how the woman can calm the man down. Because clearly women are not allowed to have our own emotions, and our entire being needs to be dedicated to responding to his emotions, right? Right? That's what that's telling me. And that's telling me that I cannot advocate for how I feel, what I want, because my concerns need to be with what he wants and how he feels and making him feel okay. That is the #1 search result. Even Lifehack, an extremely popular website that a lot of people rely on to get a lot of information on how to live their lives, promotes this misogyny. It promotes the idea that a good woman is a woman who bends herself to fit the needs of a man or anybody else around her. You can find gems in this Lifehack article about how a good woman feels shy around you, which really means she doesn't feel comfortable around you. Bad. Or another gem, she develops an interest in sports for you. Or, put another way, she gives up all of her hobbies to go play with your hobbies. She's not her own person anymore. She's just a mirror of what you want her to be. That's a good woman, right? But the worst, the worst one I found in that article was she compromises for you. Because it doesn't mean she compromises. What that really meant is she gives up everything that she wants, and the man doesn't have to give up anything that he wants. It's weird how the definition of compromise went away from he gives a little, she gives a little, they meet at a nice central point, to he gets to do whatever he wants, she has to meet him here. And that's what that life hack article was saying. And you should, I don't want you to read it. That's what that life hack article is saying. As you can see, it's garbage. Hot, steaming piles of garbage. But it does help us understand why women don't advocate for themselves. We see that in order to be a good woman, we need to give up every aspect of our being. We see that in order to be desirable, we need to bend ourselves to what a man wants. We need to compromise everything that we want to fit into his life, because asking somebody else to fit into our life, that's ridiculous, right? Another reason why women don't advocate for themselves. Another reason that women don't advocate for themselves is that we are taught to be extremely sensitive to the feelings of the people around us. Now, this is generally refers to men, but it also includes authority figures. We shouldn't do anything that might hurt their feelings. We shouldn't do anything that makes them feel like their knowledge is questioned, their ego is questioned, makes them feel unmanly. We need to support them and lift up their egos. That was another gem from the Life Hack article, by the way. It's a woman's job to cater to a man's feelings. Men aren't responsible for their own emotions. Women are responsible for managing men's emotions. And therefore, if a woman advocates for herself and in the process of doing so hurts a man's feelings, then she's automatically wrong. And it's not just men. It's not just about men's feelings. It's about hurting the feelings, breaking the ego, really, of anybody who is in charge or in a position of authority. Take my story of going to the doctor. It didn't matter if the doctor was a male or a female. They put in years of study of human anatomy and the human body and physiology. They went to med school. They have years and years of experience in medicine. So they are the ones in the position of authority there. They have the knowledge, they have the research. We're supposed to listen to them, correct? That's what we're taught. And when I was at the doctor, I felt bad. I felt bad about saying that I don't think it's GERD. I felt bad telling the doctor that I thought they were wrong. Because they have the knowledge. They need to be right. They should be right. They deserve to be right. Who am I? Who am I, some nobody with a silly bachelor's degree in biology? Like, that means I have any medical experience at all? Absolutely not. Absolutely not. So I need to refer to the experts, right? Logically, right? And when I do question them, I'm not just questioning their one diagnosis. I'm questioning their entire life's work. Their entire ego is at stake here. And I just feel so bad to say anything to them. It feels so bad. Who am I to say anything to them, right? Well, wrong. You know who I am to say something to them? It's my body. I am the only expert in my body. But still, even at that, it kind of gives me totally grumblings to even consider questioning somebody in authority like that, whether it's a male or female, whether it's a doctor or a teacher or a career counselor or a possible employer. It's nerve-wracking to question them on why they're doing something a certain way, even if we know in our hearts that we deserve better. And this is why self-advocacy is so freaking hard. We've been trained our entire lives not to do it. Don't make waves. Compromise. Listen to the authority figures. They know better than you. Go along with whatever's happening. Be a good woman. That's what we're told. And so that's what we do, to our own detriment. But this exact reason is why self-advocacy is actually so freaking vital. We need to start standing up for ourselves. We need to show the younger generations that it's okay, that they have a voice, that they're important, that their bodies and opinions and ideas are just as important as anybody else's. We need to start defining boundaries and sticking to those boundaries. We deserve for our voices to be heard, and we deserve to be treated with the respect and dignity of any human being. That's what self-advocacy is really about. I know, it sounds impossible. How do we break down an entire lifetime? Actually, wait, stop. Not just a lifetime, generations and generations and generations of conditioning, of social conditioning, of cultural conditioning, of being told that it's not okay for us to do so. How do we break that down? How do we move past that? The first thing I'm going to tell you is to shift your mindset. You matter. You matter. Your thoughts matter, your beliefs matter, your feelings matter. Everything that you do and you are, that matters and that has worth. So you need to start seeing it. Nobody on this planet is more important than you. And I don't mean that in a selfish, egotistical way that I'm the most important thing on the planet, but I do mean that to me, I should be the most important thing on the planet because I'm me. And if I don't put me first, who is going to? And the same applies to you. You need to put you first. You should be the most important person on the planet to you, and you are. You're also an authority on you. Nobody on this planet knows you better than you know yourself. You know what you're worth. You know your past job experiences. You know what you bring to the table in a relationship. You know your body. You know what it's trying to tell you if something is wrong. Listen to yourself. Know your worth. You are an authority on your body. You are an authority on yourself, and act like it. I know this is hard. It takes a mindset shift. You have to change your thinking to that everybody around you is more important to you, to that you are the most important thing in the room. I believe in you though. I believe you can do it. The next thing that we have to realize is that we are not responsible for managing other people's emotions. Let that sink in for a minute, because I know that can be difficult. It is not my job as a woman to make sure that my boyfriend is not mad or that he's not sad. It's his job. His emotions are his. They're not mine. The only person's emotions that I'm responsible for is my own. That's it. However, one of the biggest reasons that people don't advocate for themselves is that we're afraid of upsetting the emotions of someone else. We don't want to upset someone. We don't want to scare them. We don't want to make them feel bad about themselves or anger them. We don't want to do any of these things. So we don't advocate for ourselves so that we can protect the emotions of others. Can you see how absurd that is, though? We don't tell the career counselor that they're not doing a good job because they might feel bad. We don't tell the doctor that their diagnosis is way off because we don't want to hurt their feelings. We don't tell our partner that we expect more in the relationship because we don't want them to get angry. But can you see how absurd that is? Can you see how that leads us to living a life that's incomplete and not our best life? You know what? It's not our job to cater to any of their feelings. None of them. That's not our job. A career counselor shouldn't take this feedback personally. It's just business. You hired them to meet your needs, and if they aren't meeting your needs, you need to hire somebody else. Or you need to have a conversation about how they can meet your needs. Those are two different ways to advocate for yourself, and they're both important. You can't hire someone and let them walk all over you and give you advice that you don't want. That's not helpful for you. That's not even helpful for the person you're hiring. And the same thing applies in personal relationships as well. It is not your job to manage your partner's feelings. If your partner gets mad at you because you ask them to not cross your boundary, or even if you ask them for equality in the relationship, I think you should re-examine your relationship, because that is not a relationship that's going to be valuable for you. And the fact that they get mad about you asking these things, that's on them. That's not on you. You deserve to have boundaries. You're allowed to have boundaries. You're allowed to have feelings. You're allowed to have opinions. You're allowed to have thoughts. You're a human being. If somebody doesn't respect that and is trying to not allow you to have those very human reactions to things, it might be time to rethink the relationship. You should really consider whether you want to be in a relationship with somebody who reacts poorly to your attempts to get equality and respect in a relationship. And you know what? This is one of the reasons why women are taught not to advocate for themselves. Because a good woman doesn't demand equality and respect. A good woman lets her partner walk all over her. A good woman is miserable in her relationships, though. And we can do better. You don't need to give up everything that you want in life to manage the emotions of your partner. That's not fair to you, and you shouldn't have to do it. So now that we dove into what self-advocacy is, why it's important, and why it's so freaking hard to do, let's talk about some tips on how to help you advocate for yourself going forward, okay? There's really 7 steps that you need to take that'll prepare you for self-advocacy. First, you need to know what you want and what you need. That's number 1, knowing your wants and your needs. 2, arm yourself with facts and research. This will help back up your points. 3, set boundaries and make sure there are consequences for if your boundaries are crossed. 4, don't compromise your boundaries, ever. It kind of goes along with 3 about setting boundaries, but since it's so freaking important that we don't compromise our boundaries, I put it separately. 5, have a list of things that you are willing to compromise. Because I'm not saying in any of this that compromise is bad. I like the original idea of compromise, which is you give a little bit, he gives a little bit, you guys meet in the middle, everybody's happy. But compromise has changed, it's shifted. It's used to say one person gives up everything that they want, all of their hopes and dreams and ideas and opinions and everything that makes them them, and somebody else gives up nothing and gets all the benefits. That is not compromise. Compromise is knowing that there are some hard boundaries, some things you can't cross, but there are things you're willing to negotiate and give on. So have that ready. Be prepared to negotiate and compromise on the things that you can compromise on. 6, be willing to walk away. That can be really difficult. I know that sometimes you need a job or you're in a relationship that you can't escape, but if you can walk away from any deal, any situation, that will really give you a leg up on being able to advocate for yourself. If you know you don't need this, if you know that you can walk away and say, no, that's not for me, sorry, I'll try something else, you are in a great position to be able to advocate for yourself. You have the power, and that's what self-advocacy is about, is giving yourself that power. And the final thing is to find yourself a mentor or a support group. A group of people that you can count on to help you advocate. You can ask some questions and get feedback and find out if your boundaries are ridiculous and find out if your compromises are really boundary crossing. A group can help you with that. And somebody else that can really help you with that is a therapist. If you are really struggling to advocate for yourself, try getting a therapist. I know that counseling can be expensive, especially we don't have a lot of health insurance to cover it. A therapist knows exactly who you are and exactly how you personally are struggling, and they can give you the best tools and tips and advice to advocate for yourself given your personal situation. A YouTube video is great, and this is a great start. I'm glad you're watching, but it doesn't substitute for a personal therapist. So we're going to talk about these 7 steps towards self-advocacy with an example of me trying to buy a house. Okay, because it works in almost every situation you're in. There might be 1 or 2 that don't work out really well, that don't completely fit the mold given the situation, but for the most part, you'll see these 7 steps in pretty much any situation you encounter where it would be important to advocate for yourself. So one of the first steps of home buying is finding a realtor. A realtor is an amazing asset. They can help you with everything that you need from start to finish of buying your house. So when I was looking for a house to buy in Georgia, I wanted to find a realtor because that's the first thing that you do. So, you Google search how to find a realtor, blah, blah, blah. And I found a realtor in Savannah that had super high reviews, amazing reviews, the highest ranking realtor in Georgia. And I was like, yes, this sounds great. Let me reach out to her. So I reached out to her and I told her my desires. I needed a single family home. I wanted to pay between $150,000 and $200,000, which was reasonable at the time. And 3, I wanted 2 bathrooms because I just hate having 1 bathroom in a house. I hate it. So sent her my demands, my must-haves. Number 1, know what you want. I sent that to her. She's like, yeah, fine, this is great, I can do this. While I was waiting for her to get me some listings, I did some searches. I went to Zillow, find out what's in the area. There were tons of houses between $150,000 and $200,000 that met my criteria. It's basically a single family home and 2 bathrooms. So many. There were tons of homes that met my criteria. Single family homes with 2 bathrooms. So freaking many. So I was like, okay, that was my research phase. That was number 2. I did my research. I know that what I was asking wasn't unreasonable, right? Right. So I waited for the realtor to send me some listings, and she did. And every single home on the list was between $200,000 and $230,000. Every single one. I know what you're thinking. Well, you could maybe negotiate them down to $200,000, something like that. And that's probably true. That's probably what the realtor was thinking. But you know what she was really thinking? She was thinking, this person gave me a budget of between $150,000 and $200,000. I make money on commission. I'm going to make more money if this person buys a $200,000 home than I will if they buy a $150,000 home. And you know what that tells me? That told me right off the bat that this realtor was not interested in my best interests. She was interested in her best interests. And that's not something I'm willing to compromise on. I need somebody who will advocate for me in anything. That includes a real estate agent, a career counselor, a partner, an employer. They need to be on my side, and I'm not willing to compromise on that. So I nexted her. Nope. Bye. Did not work with that agent. Of course, you need to be willing to compromise a little bit, right? In all things. I wanted a dream house, of course. I wanted an open concept with a big, gorgeous kitchen and a little kitchen island. I wanted it to be walkable so I could walk to grocery stores and bars and restaurants. But you know what? That stuff was not in my price range. And I knew I could, if I compromised those things, I could get what I wanted. And that's why compromise is important. That's why it's on the list. You need to know what you are willing to compromise and what you're not willing to compromise. And again, the most important thing is you need to be willing to walk away. I walked away from that realtor. I needed a house. I had a very short time frame to get one, but she was not working within my best interests. And to advocate for myself, I knew that the best choice for me was to walk away. I've walked away from car dealers, from relationships, from jobs, from anything if they weren't meeting my needs. And that's what self-advocacy is all about. Not being afraid to walk away from things that aren't meeting your needs, regardless of what it is. Being able to walk away gives you so much power. It's freeing. It's amazing. I know there are some situations that you literally cannot walk away from. Sometimes you need a job, and you have to take any job you can get, even if it's a toxic work environment. You need money, you need to pay the bills. Now, first off, that's one of the reasons I advocate for passion fire and financial independence, so that you are never in a position where you need the job. But I know that everybody's not there yet, so I understand. And sometimes you're in a relationship that's abusive and you just can't get away. But if you check partnersinfire.com, there's some tips for both of those things. I have a very important piece on financial abuse and how to get out of that. And also we talk a lot about saving money, getting out of debt, investing, and doing all those things to help you save money so that you can leave a toxic job is important. Again, those who really struggle with self-advocacy might want to consider getting a therapist. This YouTube video is a great place to start. And like I said, I hope that you learned a lot from it. And don't forget to hit that like button so others can see this and like it too. And subscribe for more awesome videos. It's not always about deep topics like self-advocacy. As you can see, I have a musical on why people should hire me, which is completely ridiculous. Because Passion Fire really is about living your life the way you want to live it and doing whatever you want. And I wanted to make a silly video with me singing, and it was fun. I also wanted to make videos, and I also want to game. It's fun. That's what Passion Fire is all about. It's about doing the things that you want to do, that are fun, that you enjoy, and that's what this YouTube channel is all about. So you're going to see a variety of content. Some of it's going to be helpful, like this one on self-advocacy, and some is going to be silly, and that's okay, because it's all part of life. So if you're into that, if you want to see all the fun and real life stuff that we have to offer, make sure you hit that subscribe button. And I hope you enjoyed hanging out with me a little bit today.